Hey there guys, Mikey here, and welcome to Star Week Episode 2. So today we're going to get into Attack of the Clones. I'm going to be honest guys, I don't know how long this video is going to be. I don't have very much to say about this movie. At least not a lot of good stuff to say about this movie anyway. The first time I saw this movie, I fell asleep. I fell completely asleep. I know the basic premise of it is that there's something going. Well, I kind of know the basic premise of it anyway. But there is a separatist movement going on, and that's led by what's his name? Count Dooku. His name can either be really cool or really silly, depending on how you look at it. But he, he's leading the separatist movement, and they're trying to, the Jedi Council is trying to stop that movement and everything. Padme almost gets assassinated, and there's kind of two separate stories going on. There's the Anakin Padme story, because the Obi-Wan who's investigating the assassination attempt and stuff like that, and that's these are two stories that are kind of going on. The movie opens interestingly enough. I mean, I was kind of invested when the movie opened up with some action. It really does. I mean, it's a slow build to the action, but it's not so much that it drags. It was like, okay, here's Queen. Senator Amidala now, because she stepped down as queen and everything, and she was asked to be senator, so she accepted, and she gets and there's an assassination attempt on her. So Obi-Wan and Anakin are sent. This is 10 years later now, so we have a 19-year-old Anakin now. He's young, he's brash, he's pretty much as I would expect him to be at that age. I mean, he's still a teenager for the most part. So yeah, and he has abilities that honestly are better than Obi-Wan's. He just can't get out of his own head most of the time. He's too cocky, and pretty cocky and brash. It's exactly what you would expect him to be, and that's fine. But, they go on after there's a second attempt while they're there, and then they go after the killer and everything. And the person who tried to kill him the second time is killed by Jango Fett. And, yeah, for the most part, I was more interested in Obi-Wan's investigation, because I felt like that was really... Sorry, cats. I felt like that was really cool. I felt like that was like, okay, this is an interesting story. It's not great, but it's an interesting story that's been building. Yeah, I thought it was, I was kind of invested in that story. The Anakin Padme story. I'm sorry, but this is kind of the definition of a forced romance. You never really feel for these two, because it's like, I know you're trying to go the poetic Romeo and Juliet thing, love at first sight, and all of this stuff, and you're building it up, but if I'm being honest, Anakin kind of comes across as a creeper sometimes, and it's just, I don't buy into it. I really don't buy into this romance. And it's dull. The first time I watched this movie, this was the only prequel that I went to see in theaters. I was kind of dragged to see it because I didn't want to see it after the first episode. But I went to go see this movie, and I fell asleep. I fell asleep. I woke up much later. I woke up around the time when they were introducing the Clone Army and stuff, and I was kind of upset because the movie was still going. It's fairly long, but it's just, I could never buy into that romance. It was just so forced, and it was so, it was corny, and it was boring. I can't lie to you guys. It was just boring. I couldn't get into it. The only time I was genuinely intrigued is when Anakin is having dreams about his mother's death, and then when it actually happens and stuff like that. If they had done more stuff like that, going on like these missions and like building that relationship then I would have understood. It would have been, I would have bought into it a little more, but the relationship is never really built. It's just kind of like manufactured there. It happened. Kind of like with Man of Steel, with Lois and Clark. It's just like, I feel like you're just making this happen because it has to happen. Like, I don't feel the connection between these two. And then in the next movie, and oddly enough, in the next movie, I do. I kind of feel it a little bit more in that next movie. And same thing with Batman v Superman. I kind of feel the connection a little bit more there, but I never feel it in this movie. It's like I don't know. I know a lot of it goes to like the writing, and Lucas himself has said like, I'm not a good writer and stuff, and he's like, I kind of dropped. He admits that he kind of dropped the ball on that one, but it's just you never buy into it, and it's just it drags down the movie. I hate to say that. I hate to say something negative about it, but it's just like it drags the movie down. I really feel that way about it. And we do get some excitement, though. We do get some excitement because, eventually Obi-Wan gets captured because he is, he's been investigating. He finds out Count Dooku's behind this. Count Dooku and his crew capture him and stuff like that. Hey, there's a cat below me. But yeah, he gets captured and everything. And, eventually, Anakin and Padme go to try to rescue them, and rescue him anyway. And then we get the scene where all of the Jedi come to take on Count Dooku and his not clone army, but his droid army, because that's what they were building. They were building a huge droid army. You get the cool, like, there's a bunch of lightsabers and stuff flying around. Now, when I first saw this, by the time this came around, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care about now. I'm not invested in this story enough to care. But the second time, this is literally my second time seeing this movie, because I never watched it again after, but it's literally my second time seeing this movie. And when it does happen, I'm like, okay, we're kicking things up a notch here, but I was really just waiting for the one thing. And if we've seen episode 2, we all know that one thing that happens that's pretty damn awesome. But first, we get Anakin and Obi-Wan taking on Count Dooku. And it's pretty cool. It's kind of reminiscent of the older Star Wars battles. I think that's kind of what they were trying to go for here. They were going for a little less of the flashiness and stuff, and trying to keep it a little bit more grounded to the originals or whatever. But granted, the originals weren't that. For being honest, the originals weren't that great of fight scenes. I'm just saying, but they were good for that time. But now, this is a different time period. This is many years later, so choreography and fight sequences, action has all changed and stuff like that. But man, they do that same thing when they're fighting. It's like, okay, when Obi-Wan, no, they didn't do it with Obi-Wan and Count Dooku. I genuinely felt the digression of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was losing this fight, and I felt that. So when he got sliced up a little bit, he was like, oh, okay, you felt that a little bit. But when Anakin starts fighting, it's that same thing. It's just like, you get a sense that he might be losing, but all of a sudden he gets his arm chopped off, and then he gets force blasted aside. You're like, oh. Again, it happens so fast, and it's so random that you don't get that, like, because, like, you feel like, you're supposed to be following Anakin through this story. You're just like, it's supposed to kind of, you feel like this is supposed to throw you for a loop. This is supposed to be like, oh, wait, no, that's not supposed to happen. He's not supposed to lose. That's not supposed to happen. But it just, by the time it happens, it's so fast, it just goes, and you're just like, what happened? Same problem I had with episode 1 with the fight scenes ending. But we do get possibly, either way, whether you found it extremely entertaining, extremely hilarious, or both. In my case, it was both, but it was awesome nonetheless, is the first time you get to see Yoda fight. Yoda takes on Count Dooku. They go this little force battle or whatever, and they're just like, let's just settle this with our sabers. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that. I don't know if you want to do that right now. Man. Man, Yoda does his thing. And I was just like, I mean, I could watch that several times and be very entertained by it. I'm not going to say it's worth the price of admission for it, but it's pretty awesome. Like, when I first saw that, like when the whole Jedi fight was going on, and, like, the clone army comes down to help them and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, this is interesting. And then you saw Yoda, I'm like, oh, what's Yoda doing here? And I'm like, oh, Yoda's going to fight. And then when I saw Yoda fight, I'm like, what? Oh, snap. I'm like, it was awesome. It was truly awesome. But like I said, that's all I can really say. I'm like, about this movie. It's not good. It's really not good. There's, like I said, every movie has its good points. I feel like if you were to focus on building the relationship, building the romance, and not just forcing it to happen, it would have been a little bit more interesting. But, maybe have them go on more, maybe have Anakin and Padme go on more like mission type stuff. Maybe they're also having their own investigation and into what's happening and stuff like that, and let the relationship build. There was only like one time I felt like the relationship was kind of building, and that's when they kind of have a little tiff about, because Anakin, he, at some point, she doesn't mean to, but she belittles Anakin a little bit, and like, just like, oh, he's just a Padawan, and he's kind of like, excuse me? I'm not just a Padawan. Don't treat me like that, because that's how that's how Obi-Wan treats him, and he doesn't like that. So it's just kind of like, there was that one little thing, like, okay, that was a little something. Give me more of that. Or, when they go on this mission, like when they went to go find Anakin's mother, I want more of that. The writing definitely could have been better, but, like I said, if the writer, owns up to it, I'm not going to sit here and bash him about it or anything. He knows, so, it is what it is. The movie's not great. Dare I say, maybe a little bit unnecessary. I mean, you got to see some really cool things. There were some cool things about it. You got to see Jango Fett. You got to see the evolution of why Boba Fett becomes, the person he is, in a sense. You got to see Anakin and Padme fall in love, but it's really not. You got to see Padme do some stuff, which is really cool. I felt like, okay, she's a woman. She's a woman of action. I like that. I like that about her and everything. Honestly, her dialogue didn't bother me as much as most of the other people did, because I felt like she, coming from royalty, should speak proper. Now, granted, she didn't speak. It wasn't that prominent in episode 1 as it is in episode 2, but, it didn't bother me that much. Everyone else's dialogue kind of did. Yeah, like I said, guys, I know this is probably going to be a shorter version of the video, but I don't have much to say about this one. It didn't do it for me. And I know some people, there's obviously, just because I don't like it doesn't mean there's no one else out there that likes it. I know that the general population doesn't like it, but there's gotta be people out there that like it. So what did you guys think of episode 2? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Put it in the comments below. Let me know. These are pretty much my thoughts. They're summed up on, like I said, don't have a lot to say. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to follow my friend JJ's blog at 4comicjunkies.blogspot.com. Follow him on Twitter at 4comicjunkies. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. McBlam. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in episode 3.